Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. This episode is part of our Indies Introduced series, where we spotlight debut authors handpicked by booksellers from around the country. In each episode, a bookseller from the Indies Introduced panel will interview the author of a debut title featured in our program.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Johnson. I am with Baltimore Read Aloud. It's a mobile and pop-up bookshop based in Baltimore City. And I'm really excited today to be here with Sarah J. Mendonca. She is a Portuguese-American author of magical books about misfits finding their own way in the world. Sarah lives in Wisconsin, and you can find her haunting dark forests, lurking in bookshops, and buried underneath her enormous tea collection. And we are really so excited because her debut novel, An Encantadora's Guide to Monstros and Magic, was selected as an Indies pick. So we are just going to dive into a conversation, learn a little bit more about Sarah, and get some inside scoops about this amazing middle grade novel. So Sarah, tell us, first, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. How did your journey as a writer begin?
Oh, thank you for the question. I had a bit of a longer journey than the average author. I started writing when I was a senior in high school, and I'd never written a short story before. And for better or worse, I dove right into a full-length novel, which took me 4 years. But through that experience, I learned that I've got the grit to finish anything I set my mind to. And I knew that one day I'd get a book published. And though it ended up taking 15 years, I made it by not giving up. So my journey is definitely one of persistence and resilience in the face of rejection.
And how did you get introduced to fantasy and magic? Like, what drew you to that genre?
So as a kid, I was a bit of a misfit, and I used to spend my recess reading under the trees instead of playing. And I love fantasy books because they showed me a world where I felt like I belonged. So my goal as an author has always been to give kids that same feeling of belonging. And I want them to feel seen and find a place of comfort in my books. So I just find that fantasy just really, suits who I am as a person.
Yeah, and what when you think about sort of fantasy and magic, is there do you have any favorites in terms of books that you've read, or books that you've read, or even movies that you've seen that are like your favorites?
I have so many favorites, but I would say my big two influences are Tamara Pierce and Garth Nix. So, Tamara, her books had these really strong female protagonists who were overcoming, huge odds. I actually have some art, behind me right now of her Caldry of Mindolin characters, which are from her Protector of the Small series. And this is actually one of the few series where she doesn't have a magical character. And this character is going against monsters the entire series. And she's a female knight, and she's the second female knight to kind of join the knighthood. And she has to overcome a lot of experiences of sexism and harassment, and overcome the odds of people telling her that she's weak. And I actually have had a really bad fear of heights. And this character has a bad fear of heights. So I learned a lot from this character. I actually did a bunch of adventure races where I would climb 20-foot walls and jump over fire.
Wow.
And
Wow.
to help me with my fear of heights. So this just shows how powerful books can be, where you can see who you want to become on the page, and it can really inspire you to become that, to face your fears.
Yeah, as you were describing that, I can hear elements of Rosa, the main character in Encantadora's The Guide, in what you were describing from your favorite book or books. So there's a lot about Rosa where she's a strong protagonist. She's getting sort of mixed messages about her ability, and it kind of influences her confidence. And she definitely has this a strong family with her grandmother, but she also has this found family as the story evolves. So kind of lead us into your novel. Like, tell us a little bit about what it's about, and kind of what your inspiration was as you were developing Rosa and sort of this group of magical misfits that are trying to solve this heist or along the
Mhm.
way throughout the story.
Yeah, wonderful. So, I was very inspired by like Encanto meets like a younger Six of Crows. So I started working on that story at a time I had just moved to a new town. I was kind of feeling like a longing for my family. And at that time, I stumbled upon the Six of Crows, which is a magical heist. And that book really connected with me on a deep level. I really loved seeing all of these characters supporting each other, this found criminal family. And I kind of, those two things really connected with me. So I have this very Portuguese influenced world, and I really wanted to, showcase that, mixing it with a heist. So, I love heists so much. They're just absolutely like one of my favorite genres to consume. So when I was researching this book, I was watching lots of heist movies like Ocean's 11, and then the bad guys came out.
Yeah.
And I think the best part of heists is that you just have all these specific characters, these kind of character archetypes you get to play with. You have the mastermind, you have the pickpocket, and
Mhm.
once I figured out, because I like to make things hard for myself, that I wanted the magical lockpick to be the main character, you know, I built the crew around her. And, Rosa is very smart, but she's very stubborn. And this whole story is about how she's struggling to connect with others and form those friendships. And so I wanted to create, people that would add a lot of heart to the story, a lot of humor. And what's been really interesting is hearing from early readers, who their favorite characters are. Like some really love Tiago, the pickpocket
Mhm.
character who's very funny, but then some people love Jacinto, the very grumpy book forger character. So that has been very interesting because I thought that certain people would clearly easily be the favorites. And
Mhm.
it's been lovely seeing people connect with the different characters.
Yeah, and there's such a range and diversity of both their roles within the sort of the group, the heist team, but
Mhm.
also just their character, the nature of who they are as individual characters, right? So some more confident than others, some more caring than others, some more honest than others. Like there's a really nice balance in sort of the group of um, folks that come together as a part of the heist. One of the things that I found interesting about your story is that yes, there's the coming together of the young people to be a part of this and take part in this heist, but there's also this sort of underlying or elements where they're battling against the ministry, right? Or the government and the society that kind of governs the magic and sets up all these parameters and taxes and whatnot that have very oppressive implications for them as individuals and on their magic skills and how they express their magic, but also on their families. And so could you talk a little bit about sort of the how you brought together the ideas and the elements of the magical heist with this sort of backdrop of commentary on the ministry and sort of those more social commentary pieces within the story.
Um, well, I knew that I wanted Rosa, the main character, to grow up in poverty. I have some, like, both my parents grew up in poverty, and I've seen the impacts it's had on their lives. And I thought that as I was thinking about this, I was really realizing that, poverty can be a trap. And, the main character is a monster trapper, but, poverty itself you can be stuck in it. And there can be all of these systems that are working against you that trap you there that's not very fair. And, in our modern system right now, like half of America only have $400 in savings. So they are, near the edge of disaster, and it's not their fault. And it's all based on luck. You have this, you know, who gets lucky, who has, you know, the tire that gets blown out. And in this story, who has their debts called on, or who
Mhm.
accidentally gets bitten by a monstro. There's a lot of people who live on the edge, and it's not fair. And I really wanted to showcase the unfairness of it and showcase the like systematic nature of it, that it's not these characters' faults, it's the systems they live under.
Yeah. And you do it in a way that doesn't blame or dismiss. And there's also a lot of heart in the way the characters both react to the unfortunate situations that emerge, but also their sense of agency, right? That there is something that they can do about it. Um, so as you sort of think about your book in the world, I know we were just at Children's Institute, and you were so excited because, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the first. You just saw the book just before CI, so we were all really excited for you. But now that it's out in the world, and you're starting to hear that feedback, as it sort of releases to the general public next week, what are you hoping kids and educators and parents and families, like, what are you hoping folks really get from your book?
I think that, there sometimes can be this hopelessness, with the hardships that are going on in the world right now. And I love middle grade because it always finds hope in the darkness, and it lights that candle. So there's a point in the book where, the characters find something quite upsetting out in the book, and they feel that hopelessness, that the odds are stacked against them, that they can't do anything.
Mm.
And one of the characters says, I don't know if we can do anything, but we can do this one action. And
Mm.
that we can move this one stone, and that might cause the avalanche of change. And I want people to feel that. Like, I want people to feel like, you know, it might feel hopeless on a large world scale, but, putting a free book in a little free library and having one person connect with that story and feel less hopeless, being kind to those around you. There's small everyday actions that we can take to make the world a better place, even when
Mm.
there's these big systematic things happening. We can work on our own scale and our own level, even if it's within our own household or friendship group.
Thank you. That was, I know for me, that's something that I'm always looking for in um, middle grade titles, is this sense of the adventure and community that comes with the book, but also giving young people examples of how they can take action and ways that they can begin to address what's going on, not in the world, but also in their like everyday lives, right? That there's something that they can do to make a change. So what can we expect from book two?
So I'm working on book 2 right now, And I'm trying to, currently it's a duology, and right now I'm trying to, you know, address what start happens in book one and continue it into book two. Um, I don't want to give too much away, but I'm gonna say that there's a lot of heart, and we might be getting a smaller, furrier new member of the crew in the form of an adorable puppy.
I was like, oh, is this going to be a positive monster, right? Like a good monster that comes along and helps or does something that becomes a little pet for the crew or something. But no, a puppy sounds cute too. That is going to be fun. That's going to be fun. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for talking with me today. Folks, Sarah's book will be out soon. Please do all that you can to hand sell it. Bring Sarah around into your stores. I'm sure she can do like visits and connect with schools and students. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA site at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!